Hey guys, it's Melissa here from melissaoatman.com. Welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness. I am so delighted you're here with us today because we have a very special guest. Today we have with us Miss Bec Mylonas. She is a priestess, psychic channel, and an activator. And today she's here to talk to us all about the healing journey and how self-love is a huge part of that journey. And so I cannot wait to hear all of the amazing things that she has channeled for us today as a message from the universe. So thank you so much for being here with us today, Bec.
Yay, I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're here too, and I know that you are talking to us right now from very far away. So sometimes the time differences whenever you get together can be tricky. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule for being here with us. Before you get started talking about the healing journey and how self-love is part of that, I would love it if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into becoming a channel?
hmm Yeah. Okay. Cool. This is like there's like a 5 hour version or like a 3 second version. I'm trying to condense it down. So ultimately, my journey to discovering my gifts and my mission was a journey of healing for myself. So from a young kind of age, I had this sense or this pull or this knowing that I was here to do something. And I think a lot of starseeds or people kind of on this path will have this knowing that they have this purpose or this mission. And this kind of took me on this trajectory all through my early 20s of doing all the things that wasn't that to realize, okay, it's not that, it's not that. I went on some really weird tangents in my life. And eventually, through my own sort of spiritual awakening journey, I was led down the path of helping others. And that came through initially as coaching. So I started out as a coach. And all the time that I was kind of a coach, I was going through this really deep kind of Kundalini awakening and initiation process myself, really deep trauma healing, self-love work, a lot of inner work. And through that process of unfolding, I was meeting a lot of people, other healers and shamans and guides and whatever, who just kept reflecting back to me, you're a healer, you're a healer, you're a healer. And I was like, I don't know what you people are talking about. I'm not a healer. I'm just a coach. Like, don't have any gifts, whatever. And eventually, through the process of trying to make this business work over a year and feeling really like blocked by the universe and knowing that if this is my purpose, I should be more supported. It shouldn't be this difficult. I did come into my healing gifts and I asked to be shown. I was like, if I'm this healer that everyone keeps saying that I am, then show me. And what kind of unfolded, and it's like careful what you wish for, right? Because what unfolded after that was this huge, I suppose it's a initiation journey or an awakening into it was this spontaneous remembering of all of these past lives and all the grief and trauma I held from lifetimes of coming here and doing this work as a priestess, as a shaman, being birthed at the stake. Really fun, joyful stuff to remember.
Yeah, that sounds
So
amazing.
it was this process of I thought I was losing my mind for it was a good 6 months when it began, where I was on the floor, like spontaneously speaking other languages and convulsing, and it was pretty intense. It was like spiritual emergency kind of level. And through that, it was like in these places that I went to remember what I'd done and who I'd been, I was pulling back, I suppose, parts of my soul back into this incarnation, into this version of me, and remembering who I really was beyond the human level, beyond the ego. And so my journey from then onwards was more deeper layers of the same kind of themes of self-love and surrender and trust and opening to my channel, and then realizing I'm here to work with beings, like light beings, other dimensional beings, that I was a channel for energy. And it sort of progressed from there on, realizing I was here to specifically work with healers and those who are on the initiation path to activate them and their soul memory. And so it's just been this massive unfolding, and it just keeps going. It's never ending. But it's almost like the more I pull apart and strip back and let go and become this vessel and this channel for love, the more my gifts accelerate and the more is available to me in the work that I'm doing. So it's a beautiful process, debilitating at times, but it is a beautiful process. And yeah, much of my journey, and this was kind of like I channel things, right? So I channel healing transmissions, and most of what I'm doing whenever it's a podcast or a live event or whatever it is, it's a transmission. So I invite people who are listening to this to really feel the frequency in your heart, because there are beings working through me and speaking through me. And my journey has been about how can I be the most emptiest, clearest, open vessel for that message to come through. And so it's been about stripping back everything that's not love, that's not who I truly am as a soul, who is not, I'm clinging to human identities or stuff or limitations or needing to be liked or needing to prove my worth or needing to be loved or whatever it is. And that process is what enables me to do the work that I do. And I think most people on this journey will go through a similar process. And for me, literally this whole journey, everything can be traced back to self-love. And I'm always like, oh, but it's about this thing and it's about my success or money or this or, my partner or my family or whatever. And literally every single theme, every thread always comes back to me really truly believing that I'm worthy of unconditional love and support and amazing things, and really healing the wounds within me from not only this lifetime but many past incarnations where I felt abandoned by God or not worthy of God's love or not worthy of receiving, or that I deserve to be punished or whatever it is, right? So it's all come back to self-love for me. And so that's kind of why I thought it'd be a great opening to speak into self-love today. I'd be interested to hear about, your journey with self-love and where that's taken you at the moment.
That was the biggest thing I think for me when I went through my spiritual awakening was it started really after a breakup. And I was like, why am I attracting the same type of person over and over?
Same, yes.
It's like, what is going on? And searching for answers and feeling like there has to be more to life than just this. And that's what led me to doing all of this research about what does a healthy relationship even look like? Well, why can't I have that? And then realizing that I had a lot of wounding from childhood and abandonment issues, and I was a people pleaser, like big time. So I had to go through and unlearn all of that stuff. And it actually led me to, well, becoming a healer, but also starting this podcast and writing a book about how you can thrive past a breakup, because instead of using it as, oh, this is the end of my life, why can't it be the beginning of your new journey, and how you can learn from your mistakes in order to work on that self-love so that you can attract better people into your life. So that's kind of how self-love worked for me. And I still work with a lot of clients on that. So I love that topic.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that it was like this breakup that got you into the catalyst, because for me it was like constantly attracting these emotionally unavailable, man children sort of thing, one after the other, after the other, after the other, these men that didn't respect and value me. And I just started getting into kind of I guess the inner work or relationship coaching, which is what I was doing. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take responsibility now and recognize that ultimately it's me that's attracting this, right? And so I guess the core of everything that I do and everything that I am is coming back to that sovereignty and self-responsibility of, I'm not a victim. These things aren't happening to me. They're showing me. Like literally the world is this mirror. The matrix that we're in is this mirror, and it's only going to reflect back to you, what you believe about yourself or what you feel about yourself. So if your mirror or the people showing up are reflecting back to you people that abandon you or don't respect you or value you, you have to look at like, okay, firstly, this connection is a gift, because it used to really trigger me, and I'd be really angry at them and blame them and be like, oh, it's them, their problem. But then I'd have to start looking at really like the refinement of what in my frequency has actually allowed this to come into my life. Why is this here? What's the medicine here? And so I do this in every aspect, and every little tiny thing that showed up in my life, I'm like, okay, what within me created it? And that radical self-responsibility and sovereignty is the healing journey. I think it's recognizing that there's not some thing outside of you which is creating everything. It's you're creating everything. And if you don't like what you're seeing reflected back, it's like, how can I take the responsibility to change that? And so for me, the opening to my whole journey was through love as well, because I think humans, we crave, oh, I see where this is going. Okay, thanks guys. We crave love so deeply. It's something that we all desire. We all want to be loved. We all want to be accepted. And as long as we are attempting to have that feedback from outside of us, like from the external, that partner that loves us, those parents that love us, whatever it is, as long as we're attaching to these things outside of us to get that sense of love, we're going to continue to be stripped back to a point where we can feel and know and connect to the infinite love of our being. And so I thought, going into this, oh, I'm going to attract my soulmate and it's going to be amazing. And that's what I'm doing. And God, or like the universal source, I kind of feel her as like a divine mother presence. That's how I relate to source. Has always been kind of pulling me away from that and bringing me back to, like, every time I attach to someone else outside of me, it's like they're the person that's going to give me the love, they're going to make me fulfilled. She like slaps my hand and she's like, no, it's bigger than that. What you're here for in this incarnation is bigger than that. And it's divine love. It's loving everybody unconditionally, even the people who are really difficult to love. It's loving yourself unconditionally, because when you can love yourself unconditionally and see all your shit and see all your shadow and see all your stuff that is frustrating to deal with, then you can love others. And so a lot of my journey has been cultivating self-compassion for myself, but cultivating self-compassion in those moments where my initiation process is taking me into mastering my human flaws or my weaknesses, or for instance, as much light as I hold, my darkness it's vast, it's incredible. And some of the feelings and the depths that I've been taken to on my journey, it's taken extreme mastery to be able to hold those feelings and emotions of abandonment and betrayal or grief or whatever it is within me, frustration, and be able to hold myself lovingly in that space and almost like be the divine mother holding myself, if that, like, embodying that divine mother within me. And only when I'm able to really embody that energy for myself, then I feel the connection to that divine love coming in. And so it's almost like we're taught to be that savior for ourselves. We're taught to be that sovereign divine place of love for ourselves. So then we open up and access all of that love and wisdom. And it's really interesting. I've been moving through something over the past couple of days where I'm like, I'm not available for XYZ anymore. I'm no longer energetically available for things that don't meet me, and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I was in meditation yesterday and I was getting really sassy with my guides in the universe. And I was like, I'm just not fucking available for it anymore. Like, full stop. I put my foot down. Like, I'm telling you, like, now you got to show up and give me what I want. Right. And after I had to move past this energy of like frustration that's been building up in me for a while around like, where's the stuff? Like, I've done all the work. Where are the things? And the point that I kind of came to was I noticed there was this part of me, and I was shown like that doesn't feel worthy of God's love, support, and receiving all this amazing stuff. So while I'm saying I want all this stuff, the universe is not going to give that to you if you believe on some level that you don't deserve that because you've done something, or because a lot of us carry a lot of wounds, like karmic wounds from other lifetimes. And I've done some stuff, and we all have been everything in all incarnations. We've all been the victim and the perpetrator and all of the things. And I have done some stuff in past lifetimes that I carry with me into this lifetime as like a reason why I'm not deserving of having a beautiful life, or I'm not deserving of having the divine love, which I know is so close, or whatever it is. And essentially in this journey yesterday, I was shown like I want to give all this stuff to you. That's what I am. I'm this loving being of just pure unconditional support and, beauty and grace and all of this stuff, but you're not allowing me in to receive that, because there's this block of like, I have to do this alone. I have to suffer. I have to struggle. I have to be in the trenches feeling pain. I have to go through all of this darkness. And when you soften and you open and you allow to be shown and to receive that infusion of grace or love or whatever it is, like to go beyond yourself, to be then working with the divine, that's when things start to shift. And so I was shown like, just let go. Like, if you literally just hand it over to me, let go of it, hand it over, and it'll be taken care of. And I could feel it all kind of like lifting. And I've gone through this same kind of theme many, many times, because you go through the same theme at deeper layers, like as you go along the journey. But I was like, damn, it's not God that's punishing me. I'm not being punished. I'm not being withheld. It's me who is holding me back from receiving all of these things. And so ultimately it's a self-love wound. I don't really believe that I'm worthy of being loved in the way that I desire to be loved by a partner, or I don't believe that I'm worthy of receiving, thousands of clients or whatever it is, right? I'm also like really examining why I desire certain things. And I think a lot of us think that we desire certain things because they'll fulfill us in some way. But then when we examine and we really look at that desire and why it's not coming to us, we realize that actually what would fulfill our soul looks super differently. So it's really interesting. I'm here in Sydney at the moment. I was born in Sydney. My parents are in Sydney, but I've been living in Bali for 4 years. And before that, I moved away really young, like 18, to go live in Melbourne. So I just didn't want to have anything to do with my parents. We had a bit of a tumultuous No, I love them. They're amazing, but I had a lot of trauma growing up, and my desire to be independent and rebellious and all of this stuff really caused a rift or a void between my parents. And I was so angry at them for like a decade of why I separated myself. And a lot of the healing work I've been doing over the past decade has been about, really healing that bond and reparenting myself and being able to see my parents as these children who didn't know any better, or they have their own stuff, and learning to like see them and be like, oh, I understand you, right? And so it's interesting. I've come back here now into Sydney, and every time I've come here in the past, I felt so triggered and like volatile, and it just hasn't been harmonious. And this time I've come here, and it's been like sinking into this environment and just feeling so nurtured and loved and harmonious. And every day my mom's saying, I'm so glad you're here, I love you so much, you've changed so much, right? And seeing for me that's where the journey's taken me. And I thought that I desired this lifestyle of being this digital nomad influencer in Bali, like living this island life, having a partner who was this entrepreneur, and we would travel and all of this stuff. And since I've come back here, what I'm being shown is actually I desire peace and nourishment and like nervous system relaxation and being held in family and tribe and community. And this was something that I really didn't see for myself. And as much as I was clinging to this thing that I thought I needed to feel fulfilled, like I thought I needed to be super successful to feel fulfilled in my life. I thought I needed to have this lifestyle to make myself appear a certain way, whatever it was going to fulfill me, make me feel good. I'm actually realizing what I truly desire on a soul level is much more simple. It's this beautiful timeline that I'm seeing. And I met a man recently who reflected this all to me, this really beautiful, simple timeline of just nourishment and ease and like, just it feels so good in my body when I feel it. And I'm like, oh my God, I've told myself I want all this stuff, but it's because I was still needing to prove something to the world. And when you let go of all of that and you really just truly allow yourself to be accepted and seen and loved for who you are, some of the things you think that you desire, they just start to fall away. And suddenly I realized I don't actually need to be making 100 grand a year as a healer, or I don't need to have 5 million properties and be traveling all the time. I don't need to have this partner who's like stunning looking Greek god, bloody, whatever it is, who appears a certain way. Actually, what I crave is someone grounded and down to earth and simple and just kind and loving. And so your perception starts to shift the more you do this work of like what would truly nourish me and what my heart truly yearns for versus what am I doing to appear a certain way, to make people perceive me a certain way, to feel important, to feel successful, to feel whatever it is. And on this unfolding in this journey, what I'm realizing is truly what I desire is like nervous system relaxation. And I think a lot of us are really addicted to we're addicted to the drama cycles of the nervous system dysregulation. And because I grew up in this environment where my nervous system was always being activated, like I was always like stress level, like, oh my God, am I going to get screamed at today? Am I going to get abused? Like, I don't know what I'm coming home to. And I learned that love was given and taken away. And I was always like waiting for it to be taken, ripped away from me. I didn't really learn or know what it felt like to feel safe and to feel at peace and to feel grounded and to feel protected and nurtured. And I'm realizing, all of the soulmates that I called in, because I've called in quite a few soulmates on this journey, these men who have really reflected back to me all my core wounds so I can heal them. What I thought was this like, oh my God, it's this incredible twin flame connection or whatever it was. It's just a trauma bond, like that electricity that you're feeling and that like, that's not the kind of love that truly would nourish and nurture you. And so I've learned what this person recently showed me was what it would feel like to be with someone who actually just puts my nervous system at ease. And it's only through the work that I've been doing on myself to get to this place of like ease and feeling really at peace with myself that I've been able to see that as a potential. And so now like what I desire and what I'm calling in is just more harmony and grace and ease. And how can I just feel the most at peace in every moment and connected to the flow and not trying to control things and not trying to micromanage the universe. Like, how can I truly just like, right? And creating that energy in everything that I do. And so seeing that in this environment that I'm in now, this environment that used to be so toxic and chaotic for me that I couldn't even be here for like a week. And I would come here and I'd be like, I'm this enlightened healer and priestess, and it's going to be fine. I'm just going to shower them with compassion and love, and I'm not going to get triggered. And then I'd come here, and day two, I'm crying in a corner because I'm so fucking triggered. And there's this Ram Dass quote, which is like, if you think you're enlightened, spend a week with your family. And it would hit me hard every time I would come here. I'd be like, oh my God, how am I still, feeling this? Like, how am I still so triggered? And I'd get frustrated with myself, because I'd be like, you know better than this. Like, you should be able to regulate yourself. You should be able to not take the stuff on as your own and see their woundedness and whatever it is that they're working through and love them. But until recently, I hadn't really sunk that in. And so I'm just like celebrating at the moment, like, oh my God, I've managed to do this, and I've come here. And for many of us, we think like the healing journey is going to bring these incredible rewards. Like, we're looking to the external of, show me and reflect to me all this work that I've done. And sometimes it works that way. Like, I'll clear something, and then it looks like, boom, someone just shows up and pays me $5,000, like of the drop of the hat, to work with me because they just can. And it's because I've cleared something. And sometimes it is like that. And the external reflects immediately back to you, the shifts. But for me this year, it's really been about the inner landscape changing and how I'm relating to things and how I am. And so the biggest shift for me has been internal, and being able to see in this environment how I feel so different, and therefore my environment is so different, and the way that my parents are towards me is different, and the way that people that I'm meeting towards me are different, because the internal is reflecting that external. And so we can get really caught up on being frustrated because our lives don't look the way that we desire to look, for them to look. Or we say, why hasn't my soulmate shown up? Or where's the money? Or where's the success? Or where are all these external things that are going to make me feel good? But actually, it's the feeling that comes first. It's the recognition of, oh my God, I've actually really grown, and I'm dealing with this situation so differently. Yeah, wondering if you have anything to input there.
Well, I think a couple of things that you said were really interesting. So I want to go back just a little bit, but I love that you brought up about how everyone thinks that they're on a twin flame journey, and that's
Yeah.
so true. Everybody immediately, when they're in these toxic relationships, will say it's my twin flame, and really it's not. Like, I found that it's not. It's just, as you said, it's either a trauma bond or it's just a toxic relationship that people are just using that label to excuse bad behavior, and allowing people into their life who don't respect them. And I love that you brought that up. And the other thing that I wanted to go back to too is when you were talking about when you were blocking things by the universe because you felt like you had to do everything yourself. That's been a huge thing for me. That's been a huge lesson. And I know in one of my past lives, like I didn't ask for help when I needed it. And so I essentially like worked myself to death because I was too proud to ask for help. And that's kind of the theme that I'm also getting in this lifetime too, is that sometimes we have these subconscious, we don't even realize that we have it, like, oh, well, I just have to do it all myself. No one's going to help, so I need to do it myself. And I think it's interesting that you pointed that out. So if there are people out there who are experiencing that, or they feel like maybe they are blocking the blessings, right? Blocking the things that they're wanting. How would you even advise people to go about trying to work on that?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's always come down to opening and softening my heart. For a long time in my life, because of my trauma, I developed this very masculine, and it was wounded masculine. It's not even a healthy masculine, but a very masculine, tough, like strong facade of like, don't F with me. I'm so tough and strong and I don't need anyone. I'm independent, hyper independence.
Yeah.
And so it's been about like healing kind of the heart wounding around connection to others and feeling safe to connect with others. So reparenting my inner child really is what it's come down to. And then these connections with these men obviously have really helped me to crack open my heart more. And allowing not only the divine to support you, because that's one aspect of it, but like allowing others to be close to you and support you, which sometimes involves learning how to be vulnerable. And a lot of us aren't, excuse me, aren't okay with being vulnerable because we equate vulnerability to weakness. And what I would say to that is like, by cultivating strong, healthy boundaries and self-love, you're able to be vulnerable without letting yourself become a walkover, without letting people walk all over you. So doing the self-love work really is like the core of everything, but it's doing the work around de-armoring your heart. So where have people abandoned and betrayed me, and where am I judging people, or whatever it is, like where in my past have I felt it's not safe to love, it's not safe to be supported, people are only gonna hurt me and no one's here to help me, right? So where have I felt unsupported, right? And then it's about, okay, how can I love myself enough to know how I desire to be treated and be a bit ruthless. At the start, you have to be a bit ruthless, like cutting away and saying no and just being like, I'm not accepting. I'm no longer energetically available for people who do X, Y, Z, and actually standing to that boundary. Or like, for instance, with my parents, like I had to set some boundaries where I'm like, if you talk about X, Y, Z on the phone, I will hang up the phone on you. Like if you scream at me in my face, I will leave the apartment, right? So setting those boundaries with your parents, your loved ones, your friends. And when you start really claiming that for yourself, like that self-love to say, actually, I know how I desire to be treated, and I'm going to treat myself like that. And I'm going to walk away from those situations that aren't honoring me. I'm going to do the difficult thing and set a boundary or speak my truth. It's also about speaking your truth and learning to speak what's true in your heart without worrying about how it's going to be accepted. So the initiations that I went through with all these men that came in that were soulmates, and they were soulmates. I know we've definitely had past life connections. They weren't just like random strangers, because I don't believe anyone's a random stranger, but they were specifically kind of chosen to come into my life at certain points to help me to soften and de-armor my heart, and being able to like vulnerably express to them, hey, this is how I'm feeling, or when you did XYZ, it made me feel XYZ. And then learning when someone wasn't capable of meeting me where, you know, where I was at. And I actually had a relationship end of last year, and it was beautiful, beautiful divine love. Like it was super, super beautiful divine love. I've never experienced anything like it. And everyone reading into the energy of it was like, wow, you have all these things to do here together. And we did. We had healing missions together and whatever. But ultimately, it was super karmic. And the lesson that he was really teaching me and showing me was how to embody my self-worth enough to walk away from that and be like, I love you, but actually you're not giving me what I desire, and what I'm asking for is not too much. It's not, even though it feels like sometimes you make it sound like it's too much. And I know that I'm worthy of someone who is capable of giving me that and treating me in the way that I desire. And so the loving thing that I can do for myself here is to leave and to walk away. And that took a lot. It took a lot for me, especially when, you know, I see all the timelines and potentials, and I can see our souls and all these configurations melded into one and all this stuff, to be like, okay, that's great and that's beautiful and that's lovely, but I know that this isn't meeting me. And so I'm going to honor and choose me, right? And that's something that we don't do enough. Like we always just like self-abandon when there's someone who likes us, because we're so craving that love that where we're willing to abandon the most important person, which is ourselves, in order to get that. And so it's like, where are you self-abandoning? Where are you letting go of your standards or your boundaries, or allowing someone to treat you in a way that is not the way that you desire to be treated, because you're a people pleaser, or because you feel like you need to earn the love, or if you're not a good girl, you won't get the love, or because whatever reason, because I'm addicted to avoidant men who treat me in a certain way because it brings up my trauma bond of being abandoned, and therefore, you know, it's this vicious cycle. So like looking at that stuff, like if this stuff is showing up in your relationship or in the people that you're attracting, this is the biggest gift and the medicine that we have to work with. What is showing up? And so like reverse engineering everything in that process and being like, okay, I attracted this man who is unable to meet me in the ways, or woman or whatever, in the ways that I desire. I'm noticing that when we get into an argument, I self-abandon. I'm noticing that XYZ, right? So what does this mean about how I see myself, or what I believe I'm worthy of, or what I am believing is going to happen, right? So if you believe that everyone's going to abandon you and treat you like shit, obviously that's what you're going to see. If you believe that no one's going to respect your boundaries, that's what you're going to see. So for me, like the embodiment of actually taking the action that the version of me who really truly loved herself would take was always what made that growth, or that up level, that shift in my environment. Because then it's like I leaped past all the healing, and I was just suddenly resonating at that frequency of this higher version of me who wouldn't tolerate that anymore, right? And so it's like looking at, what are you tolerating? What are you allowing? What are you indulging? What are you not claiming for yourself? And then trying to figure out like the version of me who is fully healed and is anchored into self-love. How would they react in this situation? How would they be with this partner? And it's not about just like leaving your partner and not doing the work, because if you have someone there that's willing to do that work with you, then it's beautiful. And there's so much growth when you can, communicate and express your desires, your boundaries, like consciously relating in that way where you're able to work through this stuff, and that's beautiful. And I believe that at some point we all need to do this work in union. Like it's all great to be like, I'm so healed and I love myself so much, but then when someone shows up, they trigger all of your stuff. In relating, it shows you truly how much you love yourself. And so you can't do what I did for years, where I was celibate and just like not even dating and just being like, I'm above everyone and I don't even want to engage in relationships and I'm not available for that because I love myself so much. And I will not accept anything that's not my till the end of my life soulmate because I'm not interested, right? That's not how it works. Like you need these relationships and these connections to show you where there's still stuff playing out. And like people and connection is so vital to our journey, because we're here to learn humanity in this lifetime. Like so many of us are already super ascended and evolved beings that came here already ascended and evolved, and our journey isn't about ascending further. It's about learning how to be human, how to be compassionate, not only with others but especially with ourselves, right? And so how are you going to do that if you are you feel like you're above everyone, or you're isolating yourself? And a lot of my wounding is around being this healer that's isolated and alone and misunderstood, and no one knows what I go through on a daily basis, because I go through some shit. We all go through some shit, but no one will ever understand or accept me. Or in past lifetimes, I was alienated and excommunicated for doing what I do. And so there's this burden or this wound that we carry about like, I have to be this lone wolf that's on their own, and no one understands me. And that really needs to be just debunked and worked through, so we can allow ourselves to soften and allow ourselves to be in the presence of others, and allow those connections to assist us and support us in healing. Because ultimately, we're here to teach humanity and help humanity. And how can you help and teach humanity if you don't want to be a part of it? Right. So it's really like deconstructing any hierarchy templates of, I believe that I'm better than people because I have these gifts, or because I'm enlightened, or whatever it is. Like, for me, it really, really showed me when I came back here after the whole COVID thing, to visit my family. I'd been in Bali for 2 years, just really in this isolation bubble and doing a lot of deep work. And all my gifts really came online, and I was feeling super high dimensional and all this stuff. And then I would come here and I would meet with some friends from school or whatever, and I literally wouldn't be able to hold a conversation. I'd just be like, we're not on the same wavelength. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't resonate. Like, this doesn't, and catching myself judging them and being like, you're less than because you don't have this knowledge or this wisdom and you haven't done the work and whatever it is. And then catching myself in that judgment and being like, but that's where they're at. And it's perfect for them where they're at. And I'm not any better than anybody else. And it's that humility and humbleness of like, if we're here to help the world ascend and evolve, and we're here to support humanity, then we need to be in and amongst humanity. And so therefore, true ascension is through the heart space. It's through de-armoring our heart and connecting to others, and really allowing ourselves to be seen and accepted and embraced by others, instead of believing that everyone's going to sell us out or abandon us or burn us at the stake or whatever it is. Which ultimately comes back to us loving ourselves. So it's kind of this big circle, like loving others the way that you love yourself, allowing the divine to love you the way that the divine loves you, and then loving others the way that you love the divine. And then it just kind of is this circle of like really just truly unconditional love. And how can I bring myself back to that love in every moment, and see where I am holding myself back from embodying love in any moment. So where am I holding on to some human limitation or some judgment or some self-judgment or some trying to control or whatever it is? And how can I bring that into love? And so the question is like always asking myself, whenever something is coming up, whenever I'm triggered, what do I need to do in this moment? Or how do I need to hold myself to come back to divine love? And that's always the question, no matter what the situation. It's like, where am I not in alignment with love, and where can I bring myself back into alignment with love?
Yeah, I love that. So do you work with people then to help them kind of get back in touch with self-love and get back in alignment with divine love?
Yeah, and ultimately for me it's always about a descent first. So we have to descend into the places where we're holding all of that pain. Um, so you have to kind of go into the wild, dark feminine for a while and express the rage and the anger and the betrayal and whatever that is. Go to those places that you don't want to go to that are painful and uncomfortable and sit in those feelings, because it's like when you go to those places and you're able to hold yourself in those moments, hold those timelines, those versions of you with that love and with that divine love, you're essentially being the creator for yourself in that moment. You're being that higher version of yourself for yourself. And so that's when the love comes through, when you're able to see all this painful, uncomfortable, traumatic stuff with more neutrality and acceptance and compassion, like self-compassion. That's essentially the process. Like it's just really helping people to connect to like the compassion in those moments of just like pain and misery and whatever it is, like human stuff. And it's mastery. It's really truly, it's what we're learning is emotional mastery. How can I gain mastery over my emotions? And not mastery as in like I'm going to shut it down and I'm, positive thinking only, because I believe that's toxic and it's spiritual bypassing. It's like mastery to me is being able to hold the deepest pain, grief, trauma, whatever it is in your body, and just allow it to be and hold it and be with it and sit with it and be like, I love you. What are you teaching me? Right? Show me. I'm willing to see it, and sit in it until it dissolves into love. Because truly, like all these things that within us that are causing us to feel whatever way, they're just parts of us that are longing to be heard and seen and expressed. And we've been told we can't express them because people will reject us, or it's too much, or our emotions are too much, our energy is too much, whatever it is. And so they're just repressed parts of ourselves that need to be brought back into the light. And that's what this whole process really is about. It's like going to the deepest, darkest place within you where the wound is and bringing the light there. And that's what transmutation is. And that's what I teach people. It's like how to transmute extreme emotion, extreme sensations, whatever it is, back to love. That's truly what any healer, priestess, oracle, seer, whatever you want to call yourself, that's what we're here to do. A shaman. You're just there to go to the darkest place and bring the light into that place. And the light is illumination, which is just truth, which is knowledge, which is wisdom, which is the ability to see something and be detached from it and just observe it and not get caught up in the story of it. So that's the process that I help people go through for sure. I'm also really interested in helping people to connect to their divinity. And so what that really means, like what codex are they here to share with the world, which is their soul codex, like it's their divinity, it's what they've mastered over lifetimes. For me, it's compassion, or I'm mastering it still in this lifetime, but that's what I'm really here to teach: compassion and love, and transmuting the most horrible, painful human experiences into fuel for growth and love. Yeah.
So if there's anybody out there listening who is interested in possibly, trying to work on the transmutation and trying to work on getting back to that place of divine love and more self-love, what's the best way for them to follow you or work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So go to my website, www.becmylonas, mylonas.com. It'll be in the show notes. There's actually a free activation in there, which is self-love mastery workshop. I would recommend everyone receive that. It's fucking powerful and amazing, and it speaks more into this. And then there's like ways to work with me on there. And there's also a link to my Instagram on there, which has lots of content about this stuff. And that's how simple it is. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here today. You've shared so much wisdom in one short conversation, and I really appreciate your ability to shed light on. I think a lot of people have, this work to do, and it's not always easy to do. And it's amazing to have people here like you who are doing the work to help people work through their shadows and to get to the trauma and to try to heal that in order to, to just be in a place of more love, because I think that's really what it's all about. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I want to thank all of you for being here with us today, too. As always, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. Please leave a positive review from wherever you're listening. And as always, the greatest compliment you can pay me is to share this podcast with anyone you think might benefit. Join us over on Patreon, where you can see the video of this podcast. And also, there I do live card reading and a live masterclass each month. I'm sending you guys so much love and light. I hope you have a beautiful day from wherever you're listening. And I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.